my most beautiful podcast family. Y'all, we are on the last day of January. Can you even believe it? Like, we are literally, man, it's like flying. Y'all, listen, it's almost like when my life is I'm in such a great place. Y'all know I'm in love. The church that I get to pastor is doing great. The RTK Inner Circle is doing great. I've got great people in my life. And it's almost like as soon as you start really enjoying life, it starts flying. You know what I'm saying? Like it's flying by. And it's like, man, it's like January has somewhere to go. Here we are already out of it. So enjoy it. That's all I'm going to say to you is you've got to enjoy it. Today I want to talk on this podcast. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Like, I want you to think about that. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you weren't afraid of rejection, if you weren't afraid of being heartbroken again, if you weren't afraid of looking stupid, if you weren't afraid of them talking about you, if you weren't afraid of letting yourself down, like right now, what would you do? I want you to think about that. What would you do if fear wasn't in your vocabulary? And we're going to talk about that today. So I'm really excited you're here with me. Y'all, we've had a jam-packed month on here. Our first week, I had a guest talking about relationships. It was great. Then on the next week, I just reflected on all of 2023 and gave y'all ideas of how to get your life back and take back control. I actually did a recap of my life for y'all. And then the third week, my honey came on. That was such an incredible treat for us. Lo came on and graced us with his gentle spirit. Y'all got to kind of see his personality, and he's just such a good man. And that was so much fun. And he's going to join me for a lot more podcasts coming up. We're going to be talking about relationships and, us being in our 50s, how we opened our hearts up again and, chose to put ourselves out there. And then last week I talked about getting your spiritual fire back. So this month's been jam-packed with great insight. And I want to end today's, through the month of January's podcast with what would you do if you weren't afraid? What is that one thing? You ever look at somebody that is so negative and you just like, have they always been this way? You ever encountered somebody that literally you knew 20 years prior or 2 years prior and they were like the life of the party, and then all of a sudden you see them again and they are not even the same person that you knew? They used to be so much fun and now they're wearing you out. You ever seen that person that literally would walk into a room and shift an atmosphere and then all of a sudden they go into a hole and quit living? Because listen to me, it is very possible for you to allow a season, to literally allow a season to define your lifetime. And so today we're going to get into it. What would you do if you weren't afraid? And I'm going to help you get your bearings. I'm going to help you get your bearings on how to start living fearless again. And so right now, if you'd be so kind, go to wherever you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. If you're watching on my Real Talk Kim YouTube channel, welcome. Subscribe. Push that subscribe button right now because it notifies you when I come live. I come on every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube, and it notifies you. So also, would you share this? Share this broadcast right now with your friends, your family, your social pages. And if it's on Spotify, Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, Podbean, YouTube, Apple Podcast, wherever you're listening, push that subscribe button for me. I would greatly appreciate it. Y'all, what we're about to do is I'm going to let you go get your notebook so you can write down all these wonderful notes that I'm going to have for you on how to do things scared and not worry about what people think about you. All right? So I'll be right back, y'all. I'm Real Talk Kim. I love you so much. Remember, I got that masterclass going. It still ain't too late for you to go to realtalkkim.com right now. Join my masterclass that I'm helping break you out of your comfort zone and get free once and for all. You can also join my RTK Inner Circle by going to realtalkkim.com. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Y'all, listen. So I was preparing for this podcast today and recording, and I was changing my clothes, and I was thinking about how so many years of my life, I just was so afraid of missing out that I would just do anything. Like, I'm telling you, like I would jump into relationships. I would just do stupid stuff because I was afraid I was going to miss a moment. And I had a propensity to never allow God to heal me completely before I jumped into a new relationship or whatever, a new business venture. And then I would just attract what I didn't want. I attracted what I was and not what I wanted. And so I was thinking about sitting in the closet a while ago, and y'all know I love to sing, right? I sing all the time. And I used to could sing before I started preaching. And now I can't sing like I used to could sing. So now I just sound like I'm all the time. But I was standing there thinking about, I used to sing a song, and it was the Alabaster Box. And it starts with, you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box. And then one of the verses says, I can't forget the way life used to be. I was a prisoner to the sin that held me bound. That sin could be a relationship, could be soul ties that you held on to. I'd spend my days pouring life without measure into a little treasure box I thought I'd found, until the day when Jesus came to me and poured his love with a fresh new wine. Now I'm giving back to him all the praise he's worthy of. I've been forgiven, and that's why I love him so much. I've come to pour. And I was thinking about that song as I was getting ready for this podcast. And basically the reason it dropped in my spirit was because I was thinking about, if I would have never walked through fear, if I would have never conquered fear, if I would have never done everything I've done in my life, I've done it afraid because I always wanted more. And so I had to be afraid so that I could go for more. And listen to this quote. I want to ask you, what would I do? This is a question I want you to write at the top of your journal right now. What would I do if I wasn't afraid? I refuse to let you lose this year afraid of your next. What would I do? This is a question you ask yourself. What would I do if I wasn't afraid? Y'all listen to this. Someone once told me the definition of hell is, on your last day on earth, the person you could have become will meet the person you became. On the last day of this earth, when your soul takes its last breath, you will meet the person that you became, the person that you were supposed to be, the person that God created you to be before that heartbreak, before that pain, before that betrayal, before that molestation, before that abuse, before that fear. All of those things were all instilled by fear. You will meet the person that you became. Y'all, when I first heard that line, shivers went up my spine, because by the time I was 36 years old, I had lost my entire adult life through fear when my marriage ended at 18 years of marriage down the tubes. I went into fear of failure again, fear of rejection, fear of risk, fear of change, and most of all, fear of anxiety. And what did I do? I started partying. I started drinking, staying at my mom and daddy's house with my two sons, living in a 10 by 10 bedroom, the size of my old walk-in closet. I would drink, I would party, I would drive home holding one eye because I was so fear-driven with all of these lies of the enemy because of a season that I had walked through. And you know what? This might sound like a sad story, but it was a blessed story. Because basically what happened is I propelled into submission by the most painful season of my life. What was that, Kim? I literally hit rock bottom and had to find the rock at the bottom, which was Jesus. Because the truth is, you can't do that addiction for the rest of your life. You're either going to kill yourself or you're going to lose your life through staying stuck when you ain't got to be stuck, or you're going to let it propel you into power. And you're going to realize one day, I woke up one day. I remember the day I woke up after wasting a year or two of my life partying and living like the devil, going to church and leading worship at my mom and dad's church and living like the devil during the week. And I remember one day I'm laying in my bed and I was like, God, take this pain away. And he was like, I can't take it away. You got to get up and walk away from it. What was he saying? He was saying, I can give you a miracle, but a miracle is hard to keep if you don't think you deserve it. And all of my behavior showed that I didn't feel like I deserved it. And so, y'all, that was like 2009 when I finally was like, one day I woke up and I was like, I ain't staying here. I ain't staying here. I'm not staying depressed. I ain't staying angry. And you know what I started doing? I started crawling out of the pit, clawing my way out of the depths of hell that my mind had me in. And I started changing the way I looked at things, and I started believing in myself, and I started writing in my journal every night, not knowing that was going to end up being my first book, Beautifully Broken. I started pouring out my life. I would lay hands on myself, just like I told y'all to do last week on that podcast, when I said, get your spiritual fire back. I was going back after my spiritual fire because I was dead on the inside of me. I was a walking dead person, bleeding on people that didn't cut me. Angry because I was where I was at 36, 37, 38 years old. Mad that my kids were living in a broken family. And one day, I woke up and was like, I had an oh hell no moment. And that's exactly where you got to be today. I started getting my fire back. I started listening to preaching in my car. We didn't have podcasts back then. I was listening to YouTube on my way to work, listening to people talk to me, preach to me. TD Jakes was my Real Talk Kim. And I would literally listen to him talk about getting out of the fire, getting out of the pit. How ain't nobody coming to get you, Kim. You got to get yourself up. I didn't know those years were preparation for the 5 books I've written in the last 10 years. That the world is reading. Thousands and thousands of books sold. And if it wouldn't have been for the rejection that I felt that reshaped me, I would have never hit rock bottom. I would have never started getting my fire back. Did I always have it right after that? Heck no. But today, I am privileged to pastor one of the greatest churches, Limitless Church in Fayetteville, Georgia. I get to lead a movement called the RTK Inner Circle. I have master classes where I am helping pull people out of the depths of their hell. Y'all, 2006, none of today looked possible. But because I got my fire back, because I did it afraid. And so today, I want to talk to you about that. I mean, here I am, a walking testimony of how God loves to use people that are not qualified to do the most. You don't feel qualified. People may even think you're not qualified. My fruit is speaking for itself, and I still got people that are saying she ain't qualified. Who cares? Get your focus back. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop being a victim in your own story. Stop stalking them on Facebook and get up. Here's your first tip to facing your fear and becoming fearless. You ready? Start by becoming aware. Notice when you experience feelings of fear. You'd be surprised how much of our time is spent unconsciously experiencing fears, worries, and anxiety. And the next time you notice the fear inside you, remind yourself that it's all in the mind and 80% of your fears never happen. Write down a few ways that you want to deal with the worst case scenario. If this happens, I finally got to a place where I was like, it can't steal my birthday. I already lost my marriage. There ain't nothing worse than that. Then I lost my dad. That was worse than that. There's been so many things in my life that never happened that I feared, and some things that I did fear that did happen. But look at me. I didn't quit. You're not going to quit. Quitting is not our option. You cannot be a part of my world and be a quitter. I've had people that literally get so angry at me because I am not a coddler. I'm not a coddler. That's why I never thought I would be a good pastor. I laughed so hard when I became a pastor because I am not going to coddle you. Coddling ain't going to get you nothing. You being mad and angry, I will let you go be mad and angry. Go do it. Go do what you need to do. I'll be here when you get back, helping pulling you out of the pit that you got yourself into when you were angry. But I'm not going to coddle you. I'm going to be like, girl, look, boy, look, sir, ma'am, mama, daddy, get up. I don't care if you look like every ounce of hell that you've walked through. God is going to turn your ashes into beauty, but you got to move. You got to move. You got to stop thinking that season is defining your lifetime, because it's not. It ain't over. Your dreams are still going to come to pass. Yo, I'm 51 years old right now, and I'm living the best life ever. God has restored everything and more, 7 times greater. 2023 was the best year of my life. I finally met someone that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with that is nothing like the other divorces that I walked through. That is going to be your story. My sons that I thought were tarnished forever because of that divorce are thriving in relationships. They're phenomenal men when they had a statistic to not be. But it was because I wasn't coddled. There was nobody in my life that was like, baby girl, you lay here as long as you need to. You were so broken by that divorce. You just lay here. No, you know what my mother did, Mimi? She was like, but did it kill you? I was like, no. She said, then get your butt up. Get up and go take back everything the devil's stolen from you and make him pay tax. That's what I'm telling you today. Write down why your fear. Take a deep breath and tackle your fear head on. Do you hear me? You may be surprised to find it wasn't as bad as you thought. Every single time something bad's happened to me, I stop and think, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be way worse. Why? Because everything that happens to you is only part of your testimony. Dang it. God trusted you with that divorce. God trusted you with that sickness. God trusted you with that fear. God trusted you with that trial. God trusted you. Now you got to be savage mode and come back and become better, not bitter. God never ends in a deficit. He always comes out better. High five yourself right now, in fact, for being fearless. Reward yourself. Reward yourself for being fearless. I used to, y'all, be so driven by ambition that every single time I would accomplish a goal, which, man, when I came out of the trenches, I'm going to tell y'all something. I was like, boom. I don't stop. I'm a hustler. I work hard. I work so hard. I'm telling my staff will never, ever, ever be able to say I don't work, because I'm the hardest worker amongst all of them. I lead by example. But there were so many years that I didn't even enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the platforms that I was getting to stand on. I would go back to my hotel room and beat myself up because I felt like it was the worst sermon I ever preached in my life. And I remember one day God said, until you get to a place where you can reward yourself because you got up again. You may not be where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be. And I want to tell y'all something. This last 2023, I slowed down. I fell in love. I got myself better. I started going to the gym. I started working out. I got me some abs. I found peace like I ain't never felt before. Why? Because I literally realized that fear is not an option for me. Fear is not. Keeping me stuck is not. You have to be fearless. Nothing you want is going to be safe, which means you may have to move. You may have to pick up your life and move. You may have to go put a resume in at a whole different position that you're not even degreed for in order for God to do more. You may have to get out in the gym and lift some weights. But you don't need to stay where you are, because nobody's holding your feet down. There ain't nobody that can stop you but you. period. And you can't do it angry. You can't do it bitter. You can't operate in, this is me, take it or leave it. People gonna leave it. Today, walking into February, become fearless. Number one that I wanted you to write down was start by becoming aware. Notice when you experience feelings of fear. You'd be so surprised how much time you spend on what are they going to think about me? What if I write this book and nobody buys it? What if they do? When I wrote my first book, not one single person in my family or my church bought it. But 30,000 books later, I realized that God sometimes sends complete strangers to support you while your loved ones get acclimated to the new you, right? Number two that you were supposed to write down is next time you notice the fear inside you, remind yourself that it is all in your mind and that 80% of it never happens. Facts upon facts. I remember one time I was in a very tough season and I was just like, man, I just really felt like I didn't know how God was going to do it, how God was going to bring me out of it. And I remember I started having a panic attack. And I mean, I'm preaching all over the world. I'm telling people to get up. Fear ain't of God. And here I am having a panic attack. And I, to this day, think God let me have a panic attack so I would shut my mouth with my, get up. Now I'm more empathetic because I realize sometimes when you're in a dark place and you can't see your way out, it's really easy for you to let fear and the thoughts of the enemy come in your head. And I literally went to the hospital. And I remember at that hospital, I am at the front desk and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she said, give me your arm. And she started taking my heart rate. And I mean, I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest. And she said, you're fine. I said, what do you mean I'm fine? You don't see my heart? She says, it's your head. I said, I know you can see my heart palpitating. I can see it myself. She said, it's your head. She was literally getting frustrated with me because I was basically trying to talk her into fearing with me. And she just looked at me. She said, you're not dying, but if you want us to check you out, give me your name, give me your social security number. I remember at that moment, I fell over the counter because I was like, this woman is so immune to pain that she's going to let me die right here. And I remember I fell over that counter like I was dead, and she stood there. And I remember God speaking to me at that moment, said, what are you doing? I said, I'm dying. He said, you ain't dying, but you definitely going to be out $10,000 if you go back there. It was the emergency room. He said, you're going to go back there to find out fear captivated you and you had no way of renewing your mind because fear became your object. Dying took over. I remember that moment, y'all. I lifted myself up off that counter. All I heard was $10,000. I walked out of that place. God had worked a miracle. But you know what happened? I realized that fear is not of God. If I died, I wouldn't know it anyway. And today, I want you to face your fear. Write it down. Write down what you feel. Start by becoming aware. Notice fear inside of you when it's there. Number 3, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen if I do this? Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision, make it plain. And it's because when you write stuff down, it can't rule you. Here's another one to write down. Write down a few ways to deal with the worst case scenario. Often when we get our thoughts out of our heads and down on paper, the fear will disappear. I write everything down. I literally am old school because usually when you write it down, it's out of you. That fear is gone. Another one that you need to write down is ask yourself, how is this fear impacting my life? It's important to realize what you've got to lose by staying paralyzed by fear. All right, I got 2 more for you, but we got to go to break, and then I'll be right back to give you the final 2. So good, you getting out of your fear, kicking the devil in the teeth and taking back your life. I'll see you in just a minute. everybody, and welcome back. Yo, I've had so much fun with y'all this month. These podcasts have been on fire. You know, I asked so many people. I took a poll and said, do you prefer me with guests or do you prefer just me? And a lot of you said both. And so what I've decided to do is I am going to be doing a lot of these podcasts in my church, Limitless Church. We're recording there, and we'll have some guests in. I'll still do these so that you're getting just a nice variety. But I've really enjoyed this month. Was really special to me because I had my sweet man with me on one of the podcasts, and that was a lot of fun because, y'all, I never thought in a million years that he would ever be on one of my podcasts because a lot of y'all know he's quiet, he's chill, laid back, and he faced his fear and he did a jam-up job. And so let Lo be your example of stepping out and doing it afraid. I got two more for you. Ready? Another one that you need to write down of facing your fear is these are things I do, by the way, that make me fearless. I do it scared. Y'all wouldn't believe how many times I'm so freaking scared. I mean, I just did Willie Moore Jr., Erica Campbell show where I sat in her seat while she was out on tour. It was in 2023. I was so scared because it was so rigid, like you had to say certain things, and I was scared to death. And people were like, we couldn't tell you were scared, y'all. I was shaking in my boots. So I do a lot of stuff that scares me. So here's another one. Take a deep breath and tackle your fear head on. You may be surprised to find that it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be. And here's the last one. High five yourself for being fearless. You could even reward yourself afterwards for all your hard work. Did you know that when you experience fear and your body reacts in the same way as if the fear actually happened? That's right. Our brains know no difference between imagined fear and genuine fear. So it really can be detrimental to play the what if worst case scenarios in your head because this can trigger adrenaline responses that will leave you feeling burned out. What we don't realize is that fear can really limit us in living contented, peaceful lives. It can stop us from applying for our dream jobs, can stop us from being creative, stop us from approaching a potential soulmate. It can stop us from living. If I wouldn't be fearless, I wouldn't be walking the life that I'm living. I do a lot of stuff afraid. And so should you. All right? So y'all, thank you so much. I just pray over you today that you will face your fears, that you will do things that you're afraid of, and that God is going to blow your mind in 2024. Go right now to Real Talk Kim. Get in my masterclass. It's never too late. You can go back and watch all the videos of my masterclasses over and over again. And make sure you get my RTK Inner Circle. Go to realtalkkim.com, become a part of my mentorship program in my community. Make sure you're making plans to be at one of our services at Limitless Church, 1653 Highway 85 South, Fayetteville, Georgia, 30215. And also, make sure you go shopping in my store, rtkstyles.com. And make plans to be at the RTK Inner Circle Retreat in June. All the details are on my website. And I'm coming to a city near you. You want to be a part of one of my services or my events, go to realtalkkim.com and get in the number. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for supporting, and thank you to all my partners. I'll see you next week.